Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, it's Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things ready through a common sense lens. And there's some kind of awakening going on out there, right? And it's something coming from a place that I really didn't expect a lot of. And it's one of those things we've kind of seen some of the inklings of this at the beginning, right? Over the last few years, you've seen some of these commentators, some of these kind of Hollywood trade magazine insider kind of folks out there, either in the gaming industry or covering movies and television shows, get a little more honest, right? They're not quite what we would call the simps for a lot of these Hollywoods out there. Yes, they're still access media, and they'll still never go out there and generally bash a lot of the high-end studios out there, but they have become a lot more honest. One of the first examples we saw of this was, of course, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Dysentery, right? The Dial of Destiny. The very failed attempt at Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy's Lucasfilm, mind you, trying to revitalize the Indiana Jones franchise and pass it on to a female to have them carry on the franchise going forward after Harrison Ford retired. Well, that didn't work out very well, and the Hollywood critics absolutely eviscerated that movie, and of course it ended up losing big at the box office and causing Disney hundreds of millions of dollars. So this is kind of a trend that we're starting to see. IGN's lowest score isn't a 7 anymore for a lot of these big AAA studio games. And one of the places that I honestly did not expect some of this honesty out there was none other than Hollywood critic and arguably and personally described feminist icon out there, absolutely extreme feminist, Grace Randolph, has been getting a lot more honest lately. It wasn't too long ago when somebody asked her about Marvel Zombies and she said she couldn't get past the first 5 or 10 minutes and she had to turn it off. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, I think there is a consciousness awakening inside of Grace Randolph because she is becoming more honest than any of us have ever seen because of all the things in the world I did not expect on my 2025 bingo card. It was this. Grace Randolph slams Brie Larson Mario Galaxy movie casting, claims the actress could tank the film. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, someone who most likely agrees with 99% of Brie Larson's political opinions out there is flat out saying that this lady and her mouth could tank what is more than likely going to be a $1 billion box office movie. And that is fascinating to see. So we're going to get into the juicy details of exactly what Grace has said here and what her reasoning is behind it, which is just funny because Grace Randolph is sounding like a million other channels out there and a million other commentators, especially guys inside of the fellowship, have been saying for basically a decade at this point. Grace is now starting to sound like one of them. Honesty is back on the menu, boys and girls, and I didn't expect it from Grace Randolph. So we're going to check out this article. We're going to get into all of the juicy details, but before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed 2,300. I thought we were about to hit 24. We were at like 23.97. We got to 23.99, and then YouTube was like, nope. So please, we're at like 23.97 again. Hit that subscribe button. Get us to over that hump of 2,400. I certainly would appreciate it. And also leave us a comment in the section down below. What do you think about all this? Do you think Grace Randolph is right? And if Brie Larson decides to open up her big old mouth, she could tank the whole film? Or do you think Brie Larson may have learned her lesson about this and Grace is just freaking out for no reason whatsoever? Did you ever expect honesty like this out of Grace Randolph, especially about Brie Larson? Let us know what you think in the comment section down below. To support the channel, please check out the links in the description as well, because this is my full-time job, and those memberships do go a long way, boys and girls. All right, from our dear sweet Marvin Montanaro over at geeksandgamers.com. Entertainment commentator Grace Randolph sparked widespread online discussion this week after questioning Brie Larson's casting as Rosalina in Nintendo's Illumination's upcoming The Super Mario Galaxy movie. Geeks and Gamers covered this controversy on YouTube. The video can be viewed on this player below. Oh, isn't that nice? Go watch the YouTube video for those guys. But we talked about this a little bit to begin with. We talked about Brie Larson's casting when all of this came out because this is wild, this is crazy, and I think that might be the exact same picture we used in our thumbnail as well, because that's a wonderful picture of our dear sweet Brie. And at the end of the day, it's one of them situations where we've seen kind of this change in the Hollywood actors and actresses. Not all of them, obviously. We're still going to have our Rachel Zeglers of the world and our Zendayas, and obviously name your other favorite crazy celebrity out there who wants to post their nonsense all over social media. But Jennifer Lawrence is one of those who has been one of the most advocate, vocal feminist, man-bashing, kind of patriarchy stuff going on out there. And we're not going to comment on how she got ahead in Hollywood. But at the end of the day, even she flat out came out and said in an interview like a couple of weeks ago to where this stuff doesn't do me any good, right? And it was funny. There was, I can't remember his name, but he's the star of Landman right now. The actor's really good. You know exactly who I'm talking about if you saw his face. But he flat out said on Joe Rogan, just a last week, that celebrities need to shut up and not talk about our politics. He's like, I don't want to get my politics from a celebrity. He's like, we're not experts on any of this stuff. Our job is to act. You know what I mean? And so he's like, and I donate to charities and stuff like that. He's like, mostly it's like kid charities and stuff like that. But she's like, you don't see me talking about it or publicizing it or put it all over the place, So Billy Bob Thornton's not one of those guys out there to publicize all of his stuff. He's not out there to virtue signal. He's just doing things quietly behind the scenes because he believes in them. He's not out there trying to convince you that his way and his thinking is the best way. I mean, he didn't even get, as far as I know, I didn't watch the full thing, but he didn't even really get into his politics with Joe Rogan all that much. At least not in the clip I saw. So at the end of the day, there is a change in the winds. There are at least a certain segment of people inside the entertainment industry that realize doing this stuff has done nothing but tank your movies and your television shows. Just like Disney figured out that all of the gay stuff doesn't work in children's entertainment and only gets them backlash and a bunch of hate, and people like me and so many others out there making videos roasting and telling everybody we can how you cannot trust Disney with your children, right? They're starting to learn their lessons. Whether or not they can actually create anything good quality going forward is a different story. Super Mario Galaxy, on the other hand, though, that one's going to end up banking it. Everybody's going to end up loving it. No doubt about that. But you know who's not loving it? Grace Randolph. The early reaction to the announcement has drawn significant attention across social media, where fans and industry watchers noted the unusually sharp tone from Randolph, a figure who typically supports major Hollywood talent. Her comments quickly prompted debate whether Larson's involvement might influence audiences' reception for the sequel. Honestly, as long as Brie keeps her mouth shut, I don't think that's going to be the case. But at the end of the day, Brie has to be able to keep her mouth shut. It does seem like she's doing that lately. There's been a couple of interviews where people have tried to get her back into this gotcha kind of bashing men, bashing fan kind of nonsense garbage out there, and she's done a good job of sidestepping it. You know what I mean? And hopefully, just like everybody else, all she wants to do is do a good job and properly represent Rosalina. I know I saw a couple of headlines. I don't know how much truth to it is, but apparently Brie Larson's a super fan of Rosalina. I don't know how much truth there is to that, but if that is the case, hopefully that means she's going to be much better at that. And at the end of the day, though, we know Nintendo is going to have a leash on all of these folks. And I'm sure there was a conversation at some point with Brie Larson before this casting about that kind of stuff. And if there wasn't, then it's definitely understood silently, because if not, Nintendo would squash her like a bug. They don't want that garbage interfering with their billion-dollar box office. So what did Grace say? If anything can tank the new Super Mario Brothers movies, it's Brie Larson. And this is kind of her further explanation of this, because a lot of people are like, what do you mean by this? Yada, yada, yada. Grace, what are you doing? You're normally out there supporting women. You're always backing women. You're always pushing for their success and everything else, right? What does Grace say? Hate channels are a scourge on entertainment and the industry. Hi, Grace. We wouldn't exist if you all would have just been honest and not lie to our faces. But hey, after all, we're the bigots and it's our fault these things flop, right? But the idea that we therefore can't say anything negative when there's plenty of evidence to back it up is insane. Like I said, this is an awakening. I completely and totally agree with her. I just spent all last week defending Ellie Fanning in Predator and got a ton of hate for defending Barbie. Will Super Mario 2 be a huge success? Almost certainly. But Brie Larson has a history of making comments on press tours, etc., interviews that are not helpful and turn off audiences. Huh? You think? I wonder what kind of history that could be, boys and girls, because at the end of the day, this is what it all comes down to. Because a lot of people have talked about this in the past with Brie Larson and her feminist comments and all the nonsense and all the garbage and everything else. It's just been a lot of the exact same kind of talking points that we've seen from everybody over and over again. But like I said, I do think to a certain degree, Brie, like a lot of other people out there in Hollywood, have learned their lessons. Is it going to change the minds of the things they create? Or is their advocacy going to stop in their art? Probably not. Right? But at least they're going to keep their mouths shut. And as long as they're working for somebody else and doing their job and not causing a bunch of ruckus, you know what? Everybody's just going to let them have it. Because at the end of the day, think whatever you want. I believe in freedom of speech above pretty much almost everything else except for our right to worship our God, right? The one true God out there that exists above all others. So at the end of the day, outside of that, I want all of these people to speak freely. And that's fine. But if you're on a press tour for a movie, maybe you shouldn't talk about how the movie is being rewritten for a modern audience or how it's going to destroy the patriarchy or any one of the numbered of other favorite kind of talking points garbage that we've had over the past few years. Well, honestly, decade at this point. But this is where it comes to right here. Brie Larson has a history of making comments on press tours, etc., that are not helpful or to turn off audiences. She was also a big part of the reimagining of The Marvels, a film which I gave a good review, but that sequel ruined a billion-dollar character. So Grace essentially blames the flop of The Marvels on Brie Larson. Even though Grace says she liked the movie, she said it still destroyed the person's character, right? And now this is the same Grace Randolph that bashed James Gunn's Superman movie because she said it was bashing on women and it was just a bunch of misogynistic jokes and garbage against the engineer. I watched the movie. My wife sat right next to me and watched the movie in theaters. We didn't see any of that. So this is Grace. This is how she views the world. Okay? And this is what she's saying. That is absolutely insane, boys and girls. Absolutely insane. The reactions to Randolph's comments have been swift. Some viewers agreed with her concerns, while others were surprised to see such a direct warning from a commentator known for supporting industry-favored talent. Larson, meanwhile, has not publicly commented on the casting reaction, nor is she going to, right? This is going to be just like Nintendo controls everything else that they try to get a hold of, right? They're going to come in there. They're going to tell everybody, stick to the movie, talk about the movie, wave to the fans, give everybody a good time, and keep your mouth shut. And that's going to be the end of it, right? We already know we don't have to worry about this with a lot of them, like Chris Pratt and stuff like that, right? But at the end of the day, Brie Larson probably got a talking to. Brie Larson probably got a talking to. And if she didn't, it's because she already knows. She already knows. But I think she got a talking to. Larson, meanwhile, has not publicly commented, and Illumination and Nintendo have also not issued statements regarding the decision. They're not going to. Nintendo, if nothing else, is known for staying the hell out of this kind of nonsense and controversy. They are really good about that. And guess what? It's made them extremely successful, boys and girls. I mean, think back to Chris Pratt's comments, right? The internet exploded and flipped out and everybody had a meltdown over Chris Pratt voicing Mario, right? Even when we heard it in the trailer, right? Now, what did Chris say? What was his reaction? You know, we really put a lot of effort into it. We really love the story. We really just want the fans. Just give us a shot. Just go see our movie and see what you think, right? It was none of this reimagining for things, none of this other nonsense. We're doing it in our own way. None of that. And if that marketing is any indication of what we get for Super Mario Galaxy, the movie's going to be $1 billion despite Grace's reservations. The Super Mario Brothers franchise remains one of the most commercially successful video game adaptations in history. It is the most commercially successful game adaptation in history. It absolutely is, beyond a shadow of doubt. Like, there's no even question about that one. And the sequel is expected to be a priority title for both studios involved. With Larson voicing one of the franchise's most recognizable characters, her performance and media approach during the promotion cycle will likely remain a topic of interest to both fans and analysts. As anticipation builds for the film's marketing campaign, Randolph's remarks have already shaped early conversations about the project. Whether Larson's casting becomes a long-term point of contention or fades into the background may depend on how the film's promotional phase unfolds in the coming months. And at the end of the day, I don't think she's going to affect the marketing. I really don't think she's going to do anything stupid. I don't think Brie is. Are Grace's fears well-founded? Absolutely. We all say it. We say it around here all the time. History doesn't just repeat itself. It also rhymes, right? So if anything, to a lot of people out there, it might be surprising to not see Brie Larson say anything stupid, right? But at the end of the day, we watch this stuff a lot. We do these live streams, 5 days a week. We live stream 6 days a week. We talk about this stuff all the time. There's a lot of stuff that we talk about on our live streams that doesn't make it into our videos. All right. And a lot of the comments, a lot of the changes in the wind that we have seen across Hollywood show us that the era of the activists and using your red carpet premiere and your red carpet question, is this the gayest Star Wars ever? Is this the gayest Marvel ever? Is over. It's coming to an end. Right. And a lot of people are awakening to this because it goes all the way back to the 90s. All right. The old saying from Michael Jordan when asked about this, Republicans buy shoes too. And it turns out not only do conservatives, Republicans, libertarians, common sense, common nerds, whatever you want to call us, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all just individuals and we all have different opinions on different things out there. And honestly, that's one of the biggest problems with our side is we're all a bunch of individual independents trying to get our own way. But anyway, that's something for another video. But at the end of the day, whatever it is, whatever you want to call us, just common sense folks out there, we are the dominant force in the market. We decide whether something fails or succeeds. And Hollywood, at least to some extent, a good portion of it, realizes that now, that they cannot succeed they cannot succeed without us. They will only fail if they continue to disrespect us, talk down to us, treat us like crap, and push their own BS political agendas. So Grace's fears are well-founded. Has Brie Larson learned her lesson? We're going to find out as the press tour kicks off, because this movie's coming in April of next year. So the press tour is about to kick into high gear, especially after the first of the year. The question is, can Brie Larson, all of her salt and some of her own personal ire against general audiences, fans, and critics alike be put aside to make sure that Super Mario Galaxy is a movie with no controversy and just nothing but family-friendly success? We'll find out. Me personally, I think yes. I think Grace doesn't have anything to worry about, and I think Super Mario fans don't have anything to worry about either. But at the end of the day, this movie will get exactly what it deserves, and its marketing will make a huge difference because fans at this point and audiences worldwide, if you get a single sniffing of the ideology, it's going to tank. And we have a million of examples proving that. So do the right thing. Keep Brie Larson on a leash, or dear sweet Brie, re-ingratiate yourself to fans. Do a good job. Talk about your love for the franchise, keep your BS to the side, and look good in a low-cut dress. Because at the end of the day, boys and girls, that's all fans really want. Respect the source material, say nice things, and don't treat nerds like idiots. Because at the end of the day, we have proven we are the dominant force in the market, and you cannot do this without us. Because after all, we've seen what happens when you dance with the devil in the pale moonlight, and that modern audience doesn't pay the bills. We do. A big shout out to all of our subscribers and members out there. Thanks for watching, and make sure you guys like and subscribe if you have not already.